Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Pixel Perfect Podcast. I'm Paige.
And today we have a very special guest. It's Lady Knight the Brave, who,
Hello.
is going to introduce herself.
Hi. So I'm Lady Knight the Brave. I do a YouTube channel where I talk about movies and feelings and film theory.
It's a very accurate description.
Yes.
I
And
I
creates
think my channel summary is film theory and feelings.
I think that's accurate. And you make really awesome thumbnails too. I don't just for some reason
Oh,
that particular color
what's
palette
true?
was very pleasing.
Yeah.
I am a big fan of the bisexual color palette. People have pointed out that most of my thumbnails look like bi-pride flags, and I'm a fan of that.
You're like damn straight. Well, not damn
Those
straight.
are my favorite colors.
They're good colors. So yeah. And so we're going to be talking about The Haunting of Hill House today, which Lady Knight has a really awesome video on, which prompted us to have this get together to talk about all the ins and outs of how awesome that show is.
Yay!
Be fun. So, I guess, like I was saying before we started this episode, I wanted to be really prepared for this episode, and then all my notes just like random things, like talking about Hugh once he gets into the Hill House at the end.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
I don't have any coherent things. So like, does anybody have a point where they want to start?
I'm just winging it. I'm
Is everybody just winging it?
Yeah, totally.
Yes. But I can tell you, there's a very good headcanon. I just watched a video interview with Kate Siegel, where she was talking mostly about Bly Manor, but she also talked about this headcanon she has for Theo after the end of the series, which is that now she doesn't wear gloves anymore. She does go and get her nails done like at a manicurist, but she spent a long time finding a manicurist who only thinks happy thoughts. So she'll go to a manicurist when she just like people go to a bar to relax. She'll go to a manicurist and just feel happy thoughts.
I like
I
that.
mean, totally makes sense.
I
Headcanon accepted.
really like that.
I believe it. I like that a lot. Anything that Kate Siegel says, I'll just believe because she's great. I love her.
She is quite good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Theo is definitely my favorite.
Yeah.
Like
I have a
hands
hard
down
time.
favorite.
I have a hard time playing favorites. I relate a lot to Nell, which is upsetting.
I kind of did too, to be fair. So I totally get it. I was like, oh, I really like Nell. She reminds me of me. And then the show progressed, and I was like, oh no.
Like not all aspects, but I mean, I'm the youngest sibling, easily startled and things. There's some commonalities there.
Yep. Awesome.
I think I relate to Nell. I'm like a weird combination of Nell and Theo, which is bizarre.
I can see that because, like, yeah, if I was to, I would put you like in the middle of a spectrum between the two of them for sure.
Yeah. I'm aggressive, but at the same time,
Yeah.
very like Nell. Yeah.
Oh
I am.
man, I'm gonna backtrack for a minute because I always forget to do this at the beginning. But since this is a podcast that is live, we do talk for a little while, and then if anyone decides that they want to chime in with questions or thoughts, we will answer those at the end. So if you do type anything into the chat and we miss it, we're not ignoring you. We're just gonna get to it at the end of the episode. So I've covered
Too
my bases.
scatterbrained to not be be interrupted by chat things, because then we're just like off on the ether.
Yep. Although while we were chatting before we started, we did get a new follower. I just didn't see the name because
Oh.
all the layers were messed up in OBS. So I will find your name later so I can thank you. But thank you, mystery person, for the follow.
I'm interested in the difference between the kind of like the books and the movies, and because you talk about in your video, Lady Knight, how they kind of took a story about female rage and turned it into the Steven show a little bit.
I mean, like, I think female rage is a little more Fleabag, but there is definitely a lot of like this like repression and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And yeah, the focus is definitely a lot of people seem to bicker about this in the comments, but I do think he bookends the show in a way that makes him feel like more of the protagonist.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the story in the book is a lot more divided between Mama Crane and Nell. Like they both kind of get elements of it.
Mhm.
And then yeah, they both die.
Yeah.
There's a whole rest of the story that happens. So yeah, no, there's most of what they took from the book is like a lot of little scenarios and like bits of dialogue here and there. The in the night in the dark is one that happens in the book, or like someone lying in a bed and they think they're holding someone's hand and there's no one there. Like just lots of little scenarios like that. I believe the come home Nell was a big one written on the wall. Yeah. So it's just a lot of little bits like that they took, and then they sort of wrapped it up in this entirely new story.
Yeah, for
Which
sure.
I love the story.
Yeah.
But it for me does feel a little bit like the Steven show, and there is a bit of like the tragedy around Mama Crane and Nell's death feels like, I don't know, it gives me some sort of feelings where I'm just kind of like, there's something happening
past
here.
Tense.
Yeah.
And by nature of it being past tense, it does sort of foreground the ones who are alive and their struggles, and Steven does feel like the main one. So yeah, he does get a lot of. But the problem is, I love Steven. He's my trash can son.
Because I definitely was in like the hating camp, and then watched your video, and I was like, I can eke out some feelings for him. I can kind of forgive a few things. I think
it took a while for me to get on board. It's definitely around episode 6 when I started to get on the Steven train, because like episode 1, he's very punchable.
Yeah.
I think punchable is the word.
He's lecturing this woman about her dead husband, and I prefer preternatural. I'm like, shut up, you stupid man. But
yeah,
like watching him in episode 6 and 7, like trying to keep it together and failing is just really, really heart-wrenching to me. And yeah, I really, really can't with that one sequence in the last episode with him and his dad, just the whole like look at me and the ghost is in his face. I really love when characters get scared in that way. It's a thing that sometimes that happens in a show or a movie, and I'm just like, oh no, baby, this is my baby now.
Yeah. I get it. I think punchable is definitely the word. I think that what endears me to Steven is actually his baby self, because there's this
his baby self is very sweet.
Yeah, there's this need to like be the really good big brother and like the really good son, and he just wants to be helpful, and he just wants to kind of like, he's so eager to like do good, basically.
Yeah,
that you're a bit like
how like that grows into the person he is, because all of that shit got punished basically in one way or another.
Right. Yeah. So he doesn't like, he's not gonna like feel the need to take care of them, because he's like, look what happens when I try taking care of them. Like everything went to hell, and now life sucks.
I mean, and as the sibling who has been the drama sibling at times, I can definitely relate to being the one who's not the drama sibling, and being like, oh god, again, because I've definitely had times with my sisters where I'm the one freaking out and they're like, why? So yeah, no, I see it from Steven's perspective a lot. I mostly think that him lying to his wife for as long as they've been married is really, really heinous. And like, listen, I get you're a trauma puppy, but like, dude.
Yeah, that's what kind of cements the hate for me, I think, is like that major component. And I'm like, I guess it's good they reconciled and figured it out. I'm still annoyed with you, Steven, but
I mean, like, you're not the one married to him, so it's fine. Plus,
right.
he's cute. I think he's cute. I think most of the actors in this cast are really cute, but he's very cute.
Yeah, definitely a stellar cast.
That helps.
It's so well casted, and the acting is so good, and you're just like, this is like, you didn't have to go this hard, but you did.
Yeah.
Do you know Oliver Jackson Cohen is 6'3"? I can't shake this knowledge.
Did you know he's British? Like, I was like, man, that dude's
really British.
Yeah,
I watched him in interviews, and so you hear his British accent IRL. Yeah, he never gets to do his real accent on the show, but
no, I was like, why did they make him do a freaking Irish or Scottish accent in Bly Manor if the dude's naturally British?
Apparently, that was his idea, is what I have heard. Apparently, he showed up with like, no, I want to do this.
All right.
Yeah.
You want, man?
Yeah.
I just, he's 6'3". He's such a big sad boy.
He's a tall dude.
Also, a friend of mine Googled this the other day and just informed me he's patrilineal Jewish, which I'm just like, that's fun to know. 6'3".
Patrilineal, like so through his father's side?
Yeah. So Jewish law traditionally states that if your mother is Jewish, you're Jewish. It's matrilineal. So, like, if you're being very traditional about it, patrilineal Jews are sometimes looked down upon in a way that's not
no.
cool. It's a whole thing. That's when you get into Orthodox Jews. It's fine.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
just so yeah, usually people will differentiate with patrilineal Jews, especially if they're not like religiously observant, which I have no idea if he is or not.
Mm,
My friend told me this like last week, and I was like, what?
that's fascinating.
Yeah. Big boy though, just
He
so tall.
is. He is a very large dude, which is so funny because his twin in the show, Nell, is such a petite young woman. So like the fact that they're like
younger.
twins.
Fraternal twins.
Yeah.
She's like 6 years younger than him too, the actress.
Is she
Oh,
really?
really?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I just think it's so funny the contrast of like he's such this big hulking man, and then he spends so much of the show just like bent over and so sad and like just shriveled up inside, and you're like, no, baby, no.
Yeah.
The most heartbreaking thing about Luke for me is because you have that scene right where he's talking to Steve about what the symptoms of withdrawal are, and then when Nell dies and he
God.
starts going through her symptoms, it's the same symptoms, and so everyone thinks he used and he's going through withdrawal, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, he worked so hard.
Oh God,
And
I
it
know
just- it gets
everybody
me.
like distrusting him in episode 3 is really rough. I do appreciate that by the later episodes they're all like, no, I think he's clean. I think he is. Huh.
Yeah.
Like I appreciate that they don't spend a lot of time shaming him in that way in the present tense.
Yeah. For sure.
Just it's that I think it's really good writing, having that conversation and then having that go through so you understand basically why when they see him when he's sitting there
Yeah.
he's like, I'm so cold and my limbs are so stiff, where you're like, you get why they don't quite believe him, but you're just like heartbroken because you understand what's happening.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. I don't remember when I pieced together that it's that he's feeling like her dead body. Like he's feeling her dying. I don't remember when I put that together, but when I did, it wrecked my shit.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think I made that joke several times in the video about like, "Hi, I'm sad."
Yeah.
That's just my response to a lot of Hill House is like, "And I'm sad now."
They do such a
Oh,
good job of it.
train.
They just crafted such good
Yeah.
characters that like even just watching your video in preparation for this episode, I got teary-eyed again thinking about all of them.
Ooh,
I was like,
yeah.
this is too visceral.
The part at the ending gets me.
Yeah.
Like makes me cry. And I'm just like,
Oh, yeah.
this is a horror show, you're not allowed.
Like,
Sorry.
how dare.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's very good. Also, I do love all the people with their theories about they're secretly dead all the time because the cake had red on it. I'm like, the man himself has
What?
said they're fine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I am not here for your weird edgy boy theories.
Right?
Just need to like explain things like this. Like
I mean,
that,
like the show itself gives you enough of an explanation. I understand liking an open-ended ending, you know. I also like Inception, but I'm like, not everything is that. Sometimes the ending is what you were given.
Yeah. There's like an obsession with that, I feel like, in film culture right now, is like subverting expectations or having an ending that like, oh, or it could be this, or like, do we really know what happened? And it's like sometimes we can just have nice things and appreciate them as nice things.
Oh my God, yeah, no. Sometimes we can have nice things.
Yeah. 2020 will make you think otherwise, but
2020 is an exercise in believing that one day it will be better. Someday
Yeah.
it will be better.
I mean, you gotta hope is basically where
Right.
I'm at.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Radical optimism.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say you're the one with the notes, so I'm gonna let you guide this train.
Yeah, well, I am absolutely obsessed with what happens to Hugh at the ending when he walks into Hill House. Because it's
Are
like
you talking about in the flashback or in the present?
in the present, when he walks back in with Steven to basically go save Luke.
Uh-huh.
His entire demeanor changes. He's like completely in charge. He like completely knows what's up. He's just like, we're doing this thing. Look at me, you know. This
It's
is what's
that
happening.
moment in like a lot of horror things when like they gotta suit up to go fight the thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm,
it's very much that energy. It's action tree energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me, for some reason, it gives me a lot of feels that he's just like, it's almost like for me, he's just like stepping up in a way
Yeah.
that like he hasn't been recently. It's kind of like he like it removed himself from the family almost. Like,
Well,
they
and I think
removed
part
him,
of
but
it
like,
is, yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that nobody believed him about all of this
Mm.
stuff and that he couldn't say all of this stuff. So, like, now everything's on the table. Now everybody believes him. There is no artifice anymore. So he can just, like, be.
I love it. I don't
Yeah.
know why, but he walks in and he's just like, he's action tree, and you're just like, this is amazing.
Yeah. It's
I'm
like
so here for this.
he like gets to go back to like what he used to be. Like he was like always like I can fix it, and then like that
Uh,
part of him gets crushed from what their experiences, and then
Everything.
once
Yeah.
everyone
pretty
knows the
sure
truth.
I'm pretty sure at one point Steven says I can fix it, and I almost cried when he did.
Oh no, I think someone else does too.
No, well, because the dad says it multiple times, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure at least once as an adult, Steven says I can fix it, and it's really like, oh no,
I
the traits of the father.
I think Shirley says it too, like when Nell's coffin falls and she
Oh,
kind of
she
gets messed
does.
up. Yeah.
I think she does. You're right.
Yep.
Yeah. God.
Because
That
they're the
family.
two who would.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are. They were the carers of the
Yeah.
younger two.
And then Shirley's obviously very controlling and very like holding on by a thread.
She
Which
is
I
so
get.
type A, it hurts.
Yeah. I get it. It is something I actively work against being.
Honestly, 3 cheers for Kevin. Possibly the best
Oh,
character in
oh
Hill
my
House.
God.
Kevin's the real MVP.
I love Kevin. I love watching Kevin in the later episodes. Like, I really love him in episode 6, just like sort of like mother henning around, just like, do you need some iced tea? Do you need some water? Do you need some
Mhm.
whatever? Or like in the later episodes after him and Shirley have their fight, there's like this one bit where she's talking to him and she's just like, no, you're leaving now. And the way he just turns right around is like, yep. Bye-bye.
He's like,
It
okay.
makes me laugh a lot. I don't know. I really love Kevin.
Genuinely good guy, Kevin.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
Is-
very good. I
Yeah.
think there might be some sort of a through line between him and Owen of just like the good boys of this franchise.
Yes. All right, Kevin and Owen team up.
Yes. Oh my god. Oh, I would love that so much.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Looking
Yeah.
at your notes.
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about the grief and trauma thing. We can talk about the way the story is told. I have this weird thing because obviously the show is kind of, talks about the red worm being like the stomach and like keeping people quiet as it digests. And I weirdly, as I was watching the show, kind of viewed the house as almost an infection rather than because like they leave the house, right? And they still see everything, and it's like it like invades them and infects them, and they have to go back and like rip the infection out, basically.
I could see that. Yeah, it's definitely like it has a hold. I definitely have a little bit of a headcanon about like that because Steven and Shirley don't see as much of that stuff. I think it's definitely like that the house has sort of claimed some of the Cranes because like Nell and Luke still see stuff in their adulthood. But like, I don't know, personal headcanon, I do feel like at the end of the show when you see Steven walking out and all those ghosts are behind him, that like the house is claiming him. That like one day when he dies, his ghost is going to go back to Hill House or something. That's pure headcanon.
Oh, interesting.
Right there. I wrote a series of one-shots about Hill House because I was sad.
That is an interesting thought because like he's the character who was like so vehemently in denial and was like, no, there's no ghosts, and then his like
And
final
then he's
frame.
the one who is gifted, basically. He's like, and this is yours now. Have this haunted house full of ghosts.
Yep.
I'm trying to figure out if I agree, or at least that was kind of if that was similar to how I interpreted it. And I think
it's headcanon all the way down.
Yeah,
So.
right, yeah. But I feel like I had the opposite reaction to it, where I felt like he was more like, to me, it felt like a continuation of Hugh's kind of control and Hugh's kind of like understanding of the house. So kind of like we talked about where Hugh walks in and he's kind of like in charge. For me, it felt like him being like, I'm in charge and I'm done and I'm leaving. And you can all rot. That was kind of how I interpreted it, was a continuation of his father's energy in that final scenes.
All right. I definitely think it's one that's up to interpretation either way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I thought there was an interesting component regarding those final moments in there that I did not pick up on right away in your video when you mentioned the difference between like Nell's facial expression and the mom's facial expression when they're like embracing Hugh. And I was like, oh my God, that's like it. Once you see it, you totally understand like Nell is so heartbroken this has happened, whereas the mom is just like, the epitome of the
Kinda.
house, and it's like, I've got you, and I'm like, are just Nell and the mom just gonna be in this eternal battle now between the two
I
of them?
definitely have this idea of like what it must be like through the following years, where like the ghosts that have been able to retain whatever is positive about them, because there's definitely ghosts that aren't as bad. Like
Mhm.
there's that one old lady ghost that I think the mom stumbles into, who tells her that
Yeah.
like Zelda or whatever lies. So like
Poppy.
some of them aren't all bad. Yeah, or Poppy, right?
Yep.
Keep calling her Zelda.
It's the 20s, so it like makes
She looks like a Zelda. But yeah, I think that like I would imagine Nell retains sort of like whatever is good about her, and like, you know, if people are going to wander into the house in years to come, I would imagine that Nell and Hugh might be some of the good ghosts, making sure they get out okay.
Yeah. Same thing with the Dudleys. That was their last name, right?
Yeah, the Dudleys.
Yeah, because I feel like they're definitely gonna be good spirits to be in that.
Yeah.
Positive influence on the house,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to me, kind of, that the house, because obviously it makes sense that Abigail's there, and it almost felt like to me like the house was weirdly gifting them their children back, which feels the opposite of kind of what the house has been. But that's just, I don't
Mhm.
know, a weird thing that I was thinking, because she's got the baby, right? So she has both of her children.
I think
And for
it's
me, I was
kind of
kind of
a
like,
both thing. It's like if the spirit is in there and you can access them, that could be a good and a bad thing, probably.
That makes
That's
sense.
pure. I we joked a lot while watching Bly Manor, my roommate and I, about ghost physics, because you definitely have to do a lot of headcanoning when it comes to ghost physics. Like, how does it all work? Ghost rules don't really make a lot of sense if you think too hard about them. It's one of those things that you kind of have to take it emotionally
Mhm.
and just sort of roll with it.
thing I found myself doing as I was watching the show was resisting trying to analyze every little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And trying to really communicate with it on an emotional level, which, like, obviously, like I said, it made me cry, so it was fairly effective. But I did find that, like, there's this great video by Folding Ideas about metaphor,
Oh yeah,
and yeah, and like resisting the urge to basically try to explain everything and just kind of like connect with it on that level. And I
Mhm.
was actively trying to do that as I was watching it.
I think Bly Manor actually struck a really nice middle ground where they do explain more of the ghost physics, as it were,
Mhm.
more of like why there are ghosts. Um, for people who watched Hill House and were like, I want to know more, I do feel like Bly Manor kind of gave more of an explanation about how that stuff worked.
Yeah. I feel like I don't know how much you guys know about how ghost lore usually works, but I did notice, like, between Hell House and Bly Manor, and even like the first season of American Horror Story, that like the trope is like this, whatever the cursed home is, if the person dies in there, their ghost stays in there. And I found that really fascinating that that's like a recurring theme. And I'm like, like was that like
I mean,
lore
it
they came up
does.
with at some point?
I don't know if it's lore, but it does seem to be a very common sort of thing that you find in ghost stories. I mean, I can think of just like a YA fantasy novel I read in the 90s that had like kid died in this school, he's trapped in this school.
Mhm.
There's that weird movie with Casey Affleck where he wears a sheet over his head, he died in that house, he lives in that house.
Yeah.
So like I think it must be some sort of cultural mythology or something.
Yeah, I just thought it was really interesting about like places being haunted versus like people being haunted. Although Hill House is kind of a mix of that, considering
Both,
the
yeah.
ghosts follow them around. There's some of them around, but yeah.
That one dude just wanted his hat back, though. Tall,
Yeah,
Tom
right?
Ballard. I love that guy.
Oh, God. When we watched it, it was me and Paige and another one of our friends in a teleparty, Netflix party,
Mhm.
and we were messaging back and forth, and I was really like, "This guy just wants his hat back. He's like, he
His hat
stole the
back.
hat. He just wants his hat back."
Just give it back.
Fine, just wants his hat.
Yep.
He's valid. Let him have
Yeah.
his hat.
Absolutely.
We love a tall man who wants to wear a hat.
Who bricks himself into a wall because he can't cope with how short he is.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh my gosh.
So back to the notes.
We can.
The
I mean,
guiding
if anybody
notes.
has anything they want to talk about or like go through or just interest them, like, obviously it's up for it. But
I mean, like, I don't know. Yeah, like one thing I found interesting, at least in response to the video, was just how many people talked about that poem at the end.
Mhm.
Which, fun fact, I found in a Reformed Jewish Siddur.
Wow.
It's one that the authorship of it, like I'm pretty sure I found the author, but I'm not completely sure because sometimes it's attributed to a
Mm.
rabbi, but I'm pretty sure that people just don't know any better and it's written by that author I referenced in the video.
Yep.
But like I think a rabbi probably said that in a synagogue one time and somebody wrote it down and thought it was his or
They're
something.
like, that guy.
Guy. But yeah, no, like that was I don't know. I thought that was just really interesting. The way people reacted to that, at
Mhm.
least, because I just thought it was another way of talking about confetti, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely, I felt like it was definitely appropriate for all the
Mhm.
themes, both in the show and your video.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, do you get a lot of pushback on the theme you chose to like go with for the video? Because I know at the end you mentioned that like people have been interpreting other themes, like letting your kids go and stuff like that. So I was curious if like people are like, no, I feel like you're off the mark.
It's not usually about theme. Usually when people push back, it's more on like nitpicky things. Like
Of
I don't know.
course.
Like in the Fleabag video, I said I don't think there's a lot of good movies about sisters, and then people are like, "What about this one?" And I'm like,
Oh my
"Well, I
gosh.
didn't like that one as much." So I can think of like 2 movies about sisters that really made an impact on me, and that's it. It's usually more nitpicky stuff. A lot of people nitpick whether Steve was the protagonist, or a lot of people just go, "Remember you talked about feminism?" But
Of course.
I think people who make it all the way to the end are usually on board with whatever it is and don't have an issue with it being about grief and trauma. I think
Yep.
it's pretty hard to watch Hill House and not see those themes. I just thought that it's a deep show. There's a lot in there. So like
Yeah.
I thought that there was more that could be pulled out, but like I was resonating with the kids and their thing, not so much with the parents and their whole parental traumas. So like I thought there was more that could be teased out if somebody wanted to, and I was just like, but this video was long enough, so we're not going to do it.
I think
Makes
that makes sense.
I mean,
Yeah.
grief and trauma are definitely like, I feel like the forefront
Yeah.
of this show.
And my favorite themes. I feel like at some point people are going to be like, "Oh, again she's talking about trauma."
Trauma manifests in so many different ways and just
It
works
does.
differently for so many different people that you can write the same like about trauma 80 million ways.
Yeah.
Like
It's true, and I like a lot of characters with issues. So
Well, they're so relatable because like
They are.
we're coming more into an era where people are willing to even talk about their traumas and process them out loud and with others in camaraderie with people who also have trauma, whereas like our parents' generation were like, shove that shit down.
I feel like actually one thing that did get a certain amount of pushback was the comments about Nell's therapy. Sort of like in both directions. There are people who are like, that therapist is the worst therapist ever. And then there are other people who are like, actually, therapy is great. How dare you
Hmm.
imply otherwise? Which I wasn't trying to. I'm like, therapy's good. It
There's
didn't work for
there's a
Nell.
sub note. It's on the video.
Okay, first off, people correct me about things where there's on-screen text, so they're exposing their whole ass. That happens a lot. But I don't know. It's one of those things where the therapist I find really interesting because I feel like he's coming from a good place. The problem is he doesn't understand he's in a horror TV show where ghosts exist. So like he's giving her pretty solid normal advice if they didn't live in a show with ghosts in it, with real ghosts in a carnivorous house.
Yep, he's operating off of what he knows.
When people don't know they're in a horror film, it is a problem.
That's true.
I mean, it goes back to like Happy Death Day, which is a little weird in the aspect that it's just like everyone immediately believes her.
Oh yeah.
I
Like-
kind of love that they do. I feel like I wonder if Carter does, or if he's just like she's so distraught. We're gonna just like let's just imaginate, like let's just a hypothetical imaginate our way through this. If you're going through this, maybe you're very upset right now, and I don't want to upset you more. I think
just-
Happy Death Day 2U does jump a few hoops just because because how much story is in there. They have to just get on with it, so they can't spend as much time explaining, so they just go, she's a crazy white girl, and move on.
I mean, it works.
It does. I love those movies. I'm so excited for the third one that they're actually talking about doing now. They're
Oh,
actually
that's
talking
right.
about it.
That's right.
I want to pretend that my
basically
video is
because
some
of-
way responsible.
It's basically because of like streaming, like going straight to streaming is easier and more accessible now, right? That was what I
It's-
read somewhere.
So what's happening, in my understanding of it anyway, is just that there are certain movies that they cost so much to make that they can only recoup if they get a big theatrical release. That's why like Black Widow and a bunch of them keep getting pushed back. So the ones like the format at least right now in quarantine has been like something will be in theaters for like a month and then it'll go to streaming. Which is I think what's happening with Freaky.
Oh, thank God! I was really
Oh,
worried it wasn't
yay!
gonna come.
Yeah, no, like I'm pretty sure this what is becoming the standard format, unless you're Christopher Nolan and you're a dick. I'm pretty sure that the format is becoming more and more like it'll be in theaters for like 2 weeks, a month, something like that, and then it'll be available for streaming. But like only the smaller budget movies really work for that because it's easier for them to recoup back what they paid to make it, which is why yeah, like Blumhouse is all in on like we're fine. Blumhouse movies don't cost a shit ton to make. So they're actually really well suited to this like new streaming world that we might end up in as like theaters are shutting down.
That makes sense. That's basically kind of what I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, we just like transitioned to Happy Death Day, which is
That's the theme on our podcast is we're just kind of off the rails the whole time. I
Yeah.
had like a totally random thought that has like really no bearing on like the plot overall of the show, but there was like this component of the filmmaking with the transitions in Hill House that I really liked, where like there was like whatever the object was
Loves the door
had like
opening transition.
oh my god, so good. And just like someone like grabbing something or moving something and it like seamlessly transitioning into someone doing a similar action. And I was like, this is just so artfully crafted. Like you can feel the
no.
love in it.
It's Mike Flanagan started his career as an editor, so I think you can see a lot of that.
Okay.
Yeah, he started out doing editing stuff. I think you can see a lot of that in the haunting shows. I think they call it a match cut even when it's being used as a transition like that. But yeah, no, it works every time. It's usually doors.
Yeah.
Which I just love. It's so easy to do. Just hand on one doorknob and we're in another scene. It works every time. Doesn't get old.
No, not at all.
the care in general that's put into the show, and I'm thinking about like the small details too, because like one detail that got me was when Nell is outside the house, like present day Nell is outside the house going in, and then the lights flash 3 times.
Yes.
Just I was like, holy shit.
Did you notice when the little Forever Home model lights blinked in episode 2?
No, I didn't notice that.
No.
Yeah, because I think it's episode 2 where the mom says it, like I'll flash the porch light 3 times. So at the very end of episode 2, I think the last shot is like Shirley going up the stairs of her house, and the little Forever Home model is sitting on that table, and it sort of like zooms in, and it's like blurry, kind of not, and the light flashes 3 times, and that's like the end of the episode.
Ugh.
I need to go back and watch
That's
that.
good shit.
I literally just watched episode 2. What am I doing with my life?
I was just looking at it the other day for editing stuff, so hey, it's a lot easier to spot things when you're going frame by frame.
That makes sense. Yeah.
You notice a lot of things, like how Victoria Pedretti's face is good in frame by frame. That girl's doing so much with her face all the time. She can wobble her chin like nobody's business.
She's just great at the tragic roles.
She's very, very good. I love that Hill House was basically her first thing.
It's amazing.
Yeah, she was trying to be an actress, but she wasn't really booking anything. So yeah, Hill House was kind of her first thing. There's a girl in Bly Manor who this is her first thing. Jamie the gardener. This is kind of her first major role.
Which that also surprised me because I loved her. She was great.
Oh god, she's so good. But yeah, no, like they said there were a couple scenes in particular, like this is commentary stuff. They said that like there are scenes that were okay on the page, and then Victoria Pedretti did them, like the one where her husband dies and she's got the sleep paralysis. Like that was just she works to regain her mobility and crawls to him, and then she did all of that. And they were like, holy shit. they were completely floored. And like, I think he said in the commentary, they had a lot of discussion about keeping that final, like that, not that everything is confetti, but the one where she says it earlier, that time is, it's like a line of this and that, it's like snow or confetti. And they were like not sure how that line was going to sound.
Mhm.
They were like, it sounds good on the page, we're not sure it's going to sound good out loud. And then the way she said it was like so perfect. They were like, oh yes, we never should have worried.
She just kills
I
it.
mean,
Yeah.
it goes back to what I said earlier. They didn't have to go this hard, but like
But
they
they
did.
did.
They did it.
They very, very much did. I cried a lot at the end of Hill House. I remember it's one that I watched all in one sitting. It was at like 3 a.m. and I'm like sobbing.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, we started doing like our group watch party, and then we had to stop like a couple episodes in, and I was like, I can't wait for them. I'm watching it on my own. And I just like,
it's just like when you get to Bent Neck Lady. From there, it's like you can't
Yeah.
stop watching. I love episode 5.
Non-linear storytelling is really good at keeping you engaged because
Yep.
you're always
Yeah.
like getting new information, so you're learning things, but at the same time you're just like there's so many things you don't know. You're like, what the hell
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah,
It's very clever how they do it.
it is very, very good.
Speaking of clever, I missed like all of the hidden ghosts. I had to go read an
Oh.
article to see all of them, and I was like, damn.
Oh, I missed all of them too. That was the thing I learned after the fact. As soon as the show ended, I was like, all right, let me get on Google. I want to hear what people are. That's usually what happens when a show like interests me enough. Is I'm like, all right, what are the creators saying about it? What are reviewers saying? That sort of
Mhm.
thing. And so yeah, with Hill House, I found the stuff about the hidden ghosts, and I'm like, oh, all right. And there are like those BuzzFeed videos or whatever
Mm.
where it's just like zooming in, circling, arrow pointing at like all of these hidden ghosts. Like I definitely pulled a few of those, like not the footage, but I definitely referred to one of those videos to find a couple. I just know
There's
about
just
the
so
Bruce Greenwood
many.
one. There's so many, and
many.
there's apparently like more in Bly Manor.
Are there? I missed them if they were.
My roommate was really good at spotting. There's a plague doctor.
I
that you
saw
see a
him,
lot.
and that was about it.
You see him a lot if you're paying attention, I guess. And I
Okay.
didn't catch him most of the time, but she would be like, "There he is again."
That's so spooky.
Yeah. I don't know. So although the thing I found really funny was that apparently on season 1 the actors weren't really aware of them. They were just like, they would just be there, and then eventually like they'd come out from their little hidey hole and they'd be like, oh, okay.
Was like the actor actually in the room with them? It wasn't like a edited in
Yeah.
after kind of thing?
Yeah, no.
Oh
they're
my
really
god.
there.
That would have
really
scared the
just
crap out of me.
painted up extras. On season 2, they would be chatting with them. Like the kids talk about like
Oh my
chatting
gosh.
with, and they're so nice. And there was one who juggled, and like just being at the crafts table with a couple ghosts.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
god.
Although
they weren't-
apparently,
Go ahead.
Rahul Kohli apparently was not aware of them on set most of the time, which is really fitting for his character.
That
who
sounds
is
like
also
him.
unaware of ghosts.
Yeah.
I was reading about how much work they put into making people look like ghosts, like making sure the color were right and making sure the makeup was right. Like it was a lot of effort.
I mean, I'm sure those shows are color timed like crazy. So there's probably a certain amount of like care that goes into making sure the makeup is gonna like jive with that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do we know how much the show cost to make? I mean, Netflix made it, so I'm assuming they threw lots of money at it.
I don't. I could probably.
And I
Google
have
it.
literally opened up an IMDb right now
Perfect.
Ah.
because I wanted to be able to like reference it if I needed to.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, because like I can tell you because I was looking this up for Sense8 stuff. So like Game of Thrones, for instance, cost about $6 million per episode. So like that's like the big prestige, expensive drama. I would imagine Hill House is a lot less because it's largely taking place over like 2 or 3 sets.
Mhm.
Like most of it is on sets.
That makes sense.
So I mean, like the cost of sets and all that, but probably not as much as Game of Thrones.
I don't think anything costs as much as Game of Thrones.
That's not true. Sense8 costs more.
Whoa, really?
Interesting.
This is an estimation, $9 million per episode.
Wow.
They filmed
my
it all on
God.
location. They filmed it all on location in like
Oh.
every single country that show takes place in.
Wow.
With all on, like when they're in Africa, their crew is African folk. You know, like they're yeah. So
That's
it
some
was a really
dedication right
expensive
there.
show. I
Like going on
I
a Google hunting. Sorry, keep
You're
going.
going on a journey. I usually just go to Wikipedia and I'm like, that's probably in the ballpark of right.
It wasn't on Wikipedia.
Oh, really?
Actually, they don't release that all the time. Like movies will
Yeah.
tell you that a lot, but TV shows not necessarily.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, like movies, you can find the budget on the wiki. Like
Yeah.
it'll be right there
Right.
underneath the poster. But yeah, TV shows, and especially now with streaming stuff, they're not usually as talking about that. I'm literally now just googling, looking down at the details. See more.
You're
That
like,
would probably
tell
be where
us.
it would be. Nope. They just
I'm
talk about the
finding too.
locations.
Yep.
Damn, Netflix being all tight-lipped.
I mean-
Netflix is tight-lipped about a lot of stuff. They also
That's
don't
fair.
really release their numbers, you know? Like we
Yeah.
don't know how well shows are doing.
That's true. Unless they're in like the new top 10 thing that they have, and then like that's about it.
Yeah, but like that doesn't give you a sense of like quote unquote numbers, which we care
Mm.
about so much with movies.
Right, yeah. Or if like people actually even liking it, or if they're like hate watching something like Emily in Paris.
I don't think Netflix differentiates that. A
No.
watch is a watch, most likely.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with I know, well, at least with network shows, you get the oh my god, what's the thing? The box that the people know how
Yelp
many.
ratings?
That's it.
What did you say it was?
Nielsen ratings.
Nielsen
Yep.
ratings. I'm
Yep.
learning so much today.
That's
Yep.
regular TV shows that are on networks. You usually get Nielsen ratings, which is roughly how many people watched it. Although those are super unreliable because you actually need a little thing called a Nielsen box to register as you're watching it. So it's not even really that accurate, but
Oh.
it's what networks for a long time would use to determine how successful shows were and what shows get renewed and so on. Now Netflix has other ways because it's all online anyway, but
Mm.
they don't tell us that stuff.
Or an obsession with movies too. Like, did they make back their budget? Which you wouldn't
Oh,
really
yeah.
have with like TV shows necessarily.
Yeah, no, box office and like TV show viewing numbers are very different.
Right.
Wow.
All right.
Did you have further things you wanted to talk about with Hill House, Aaron or Lady Night?
I'm letting you guys lead.
I
I've
love
talked about
Poppy.
my trash can. Poppy? Oh, she's very
Full stop.
chaotic and in a hot way.
I love her. I mean, obviously she's like evil, but like I love her character
Mhm.
and the
She's
acting.
fun.
It's just good. That's
Yeah.
basically my entire thought. But I just,
oh my god!
I
just
love Poppy.
realized. I think Poppy might be in Bly Manor. I just
Oh,
realized I'm
is
now
she?
googling that actress to see if I'm right.
I don't remember. I watched that so quickly.
Her. Oh my god, she is. I think she is.
Who does she play?
She's Viola's sister in episode 8, the black and white
Oh,
episode.
she is. Oh, she looks so different with all the hair.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I just was
Okay.
looking at a picture of Poppy now and was like, oh shit.
I think
So
Perdita
that's
is
fun.
the character's name. I believe.
Perdita, yeah.
Perdita. I can't say that.
I was just looking at episode stuff recently, and the voiceover lady says it like Perdita.
that sounds about right.
Couple.
I've been having that struggle with Sense8 trying to get names right.
I
There's a lot
can't
of
get
crazy
any names right ever.
I'm trying really, really hard, but there's
Yeah.
like, oh, what was the one that I had to Toby Onwumere and like something Miguel Angel Silvestre, like there's a couple of like just really mouthful names,
Mhm.
and my accent work is so.
I've said this on this podcast before, but I just like I've been playing Pokemon since I was 5 years old, and I can't pronounce like any of them.
Which is funny because I find that Japanese is one of those that it's usually it sounds like it's spelled.
Yeah, pretty often it does, with like a few exceptions here and there, with like
Yeah.
overpronouncing an end syllable.
Can't do it. Can't do it.
How do you say Pikachu?
I mean, the ones that like you hear all the time, like Bulbasaur, Charmander, like, but like you asked me to hear the ones that like we don't talk about all the time that aren't in like popular,
Mhm.
like, you know what I mean? Like the average person wouldn't necessarily know. I'm just like, I don't know. Sorry. Can't do it. Don't know why. the only other like detail I kind of wanted to point out that is just literally just like a I like Poppy detail is how things in this show come back later on. So like for me, I was thinking about, and I didn't make this connection until I was rewatching it the second time, the banging on the walls with Theo and Shirley, and then the banging on the walls when they're in present day too.
Yep.
And how
Yep.
these things these basically what happens to them as children comes back as adults, and that's how the house basically gets them, is by reliving that original trauma, which fascinates me.
The wall banging was actually one of the book scenarios that they lifted.
Oh, okay, cool.
Creepy as hell.
It
Yeah,
was.
It's very
Oh my
creepy.
God.
But also that scene, at least when they're adults, is immediately preceded by the boob punching, which is one of my
So
favorite.
funny.
That is a sister moment that is relatable.
And I only have a brother, but like, yeah, that
I have-
that tracks in my brain.
I have 2 older sisters. I can tell you it's accurate. Especially the way Shirley, like the way they both react to it. Like, did you just? Yeah, I did. Like, just that energy is so good.
It's like confused energy, and then like, yeah, fight me about it.
I'm
love it.
angry still.
All right, we'll
good
finish up before the Q&A if we end up having
Mm-hmm.
any questions. Favorite scary bits. What's the moment that scared you the most? What's the moment that got you?
When Nell comes out to shame Sister Kind in the car.
That one definitely made
That's
me
a good
jump.
one.
That was the
It's
jumpiest one
like-
for me.
That's the big jump scare that like everybody talks about from this season.
Yep.
Which apparently Victoria Pedretti, they didn't have that timed. They just told her to come out when she
Just
was
do
ready.
it.
Yeah, so them jumping is pretty legit.
I love it. I think the only other thing that unsettled me a lot that I really didn't like was most of Shirley's episode with like the cat stuff. Ooh, it was a lot for me.
It's
So
hard.
Episode 10 has a lot of unsettling imagery, the eyes melting and the face getting ripped out. There's a lot of stuff in episode 10 that's upsetting to look at.
Absolutely.
Me, it will always be the guy in like the bootleg basement. Like
Oh,
when he goes down the
that's
dumbwaiter.
Gollum.
Yeah.
Oh,
I can't do it. It just it terrifies the shit, especially crawling. Anything that crawls destroys me.
Don't watch zombie movies.
I was gonna say, how did you feel about The Exorcist?
Can't do it.
I
Can't
still
do
haven't
it.
watched The Exorcist.
It's like, it's one of those ones where it's like, I feel like you gotta watch it, but it's like, I don't know, I feel like it's not good.
It is considered a classic, but there's a certain era of
Yeah.
movies where pacing was buck wild. And I feel like The
Yeah.
Exorcist is solidly in there.
Yeah, for sure. It's just also very disturbing.
Yeah.
Very, very disturbing. But yeah, if anyone wants to chime in with thoughts or questions, they can right now. And if not, we'll just end shortly. Thank you so much for being on this with us. This was a blast.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Good time. Love talking about horror stuff, and can't believe Halloween's already this weekend, and then October's over already. So
Oh
that's
my god.
that's the
I'm
true
not doing
horror.
anything for Halloween.
Is
mean,
anybody?
what? We should be doing anything for Halloween? People are like,
Like,
we're doing the thing, and I'm like, don't. Don't do
Aside from making my own pumpkin spice frappuccinos, I am not really.
There you go.
No, I'm a basic bitch. I like a PSL. But
Me too.
but no, like I wasn't allowed to trick or treat until I was like 13.
Oh no.
So I don't have a lot of sentimentality about Halloween. Yeah, my there may or may not have once upon a time in history been like pogroms on Halloween. I've never looked into this. But that was a thing that my parents thought, and so they didn't
Oh.
let us trick or treat for a lot of years.
Oh no.
And then finally, when I was like 13, my mom was like, "She just wants candy. She just wants to get candy
Just
from
let her
friends."
go.
I mean, isn't that the point of trick or treating?
Then I was already too old, so like I really only
You're like
did for,
over
like,
it. Yeah.
like by the time you're 15, it's kind of sad to be trick or treating.
Yeah, I think I went when I was 14, and I was like, this feels weird.
By the time I was 14, I could afford my own candy.
Yeah,
So-
no,
There you go.
the last time I went, I was with a friend and we were chaperoning her younger brother or something, so it was
Yeah.
already less fun.
Oh, Well, I don't think we have any questions coming in, so we're gonna call it a night. This was a
Alright.
lot of fun. Thanks for joining us again,
Yeah.
and we'll see everyone in the next episode.